Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the program on tonight. Let's get started here. For those of you who will be stopping by to chat with me, commenting in the comments section, as always, welcome all your comments, pro or con, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Socialist, Independent, etc. I take none of this personally. Everybody's welcome to come and join in the conversation. Yes, I do read the comments. Some of them I read while they're coming through, others I read while off the air. We're on the road to getting 2,000 subscribers. I think we have 1,720. I want to say thank you to everyone who have subscribed to Tyrone Bowman Live. This will be an extended edition of Tyrone Bowman Live tonight, and I'll be talking about a variety of news stories that have taken place around the country. And I'm open for topic and discussion. So let's get the conversation started. At the top of the list, I want to talk about the Homeland Security. They have revoked Harvard's ability to enroll international students, as reported by Reuters news agency. So the Trump administration has blocked Harvard's international enrollments and threatens a broader crackdown. So here's the summary. Homeland Security, NOAA orders termination of Harvard student visa program. Cites cites alleged anti-Semitism and coordination with Chinese Communist Party. Isn't that ironic when they do business with the Chinese government? Harvard calls more unlawful pledges support for foreign students. NOAA warns other universities could face similar actions. Well, Harvard University has been around for a long time and they have deep pockets, so they will continue to get a lot of funding from a lot of different places. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration revoked Harvard University's ability to enroll international students on Thursday and is forcing existing students to transfer to other schools or lose their legal status, while also threatening to expand the crackdown to other schools. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem ordered the department to terminate Harvard University's Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification, the department said in a statement. Noem accused the university of, quote, fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party, end quote, without any evidence. Harvard said the move by the Trump administration, which affects thousands of students, was illegal and amounted to retaliation. The clampdown on foreign students marks a significant escalation of the Trump administration's campaign against the elite Ivy League University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which has emerged as one of Trump's most prominent institutional targets. The move comes after Harvard refused to provide information that Noam had previously demanded about some foreign students' visa holders who attended the university, the department said. Harvard enrolled nearly 6,800 international students in the 2024-2025 school year, amounting to 27% of its total enrollment, according to university statistics. In 2022, Chinese nationals made up the biggest population of foreign students with 1,016, university figures show. After that were students from Canada, India, South Korea, the United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, Singapore, and Japan. Quote, it is a privilege, not a right for universities to enroll foreign students and benefit from their higher tuition payments to help pad their multi-billion-dollar endowments, quote, Noam said in a statement. All right, let's examine this here. She said they're just allowing foreign students to come so they can benefit from their higher tuition payments to help pad their multi-billion-dollar endowments. Isn't it ironic they're always railing against the elitists when they are the elitists themselves? Isn't it ironic that billions and billions and billions of dollars are being made right now, even while individuals are going through hard times in this nation? Harvard rejected the allegations and pledged to support foreign students. Quote, the government's action is unlawful, the university said in a statement. This retaliatory action threatens serious harm to the Harvard community and our country and undermines Harvard's academic and research mission, quote, close quote. The university said it was fully committed to educating foreign students and was working on producing guidelines for affected students. In a separate lawsuit related to Trump's effort to terminate the legal status of hundreds of foreign students across the U.S., a federal judge ruled on Thursday that the administration could not end their status without following proper regulatory procedures. It was not immediately clear how that ruling would affect the action against Harvard. During an interview with Fox News, quote, the story with Martha McCullum, no one was asked if she was considering similar moves at other universities, including Columbia University in New York. Absolutely, we are, Noam said. This should be a warning to every other university to get your act together. Trump, who is a Republican, has undertaken an extraordinary effort to ramp up private colleges and schools across the U.S., or to revamp private colleges and schools across the U.S. that he says foster anti-American, Marxist, and radical left ideology. He has criticized Harvard in particular for hiring prominent Democrats to teaching or leadership positions. Okay. Some of this I have to laugh through. So the Democrats are bad, and only the Republicans are good, who lie, cheat, and steal. They're the only ones that are good. Biden could do no good. Barack Obama could do no good. Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, couldn't do any good. So every Republican is good, and every Democrat is bad. Trump has frozen some $3 billion in federal grants to Harvard in recent weeks, leading the university to sue to restore the funding. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said on Monday that it was terminating $60 million in federal grants to Harvard because the Ivy League institution failed to address anti-Semitic harassment and ethnic discrimination on campus. But it's okay to discriminate against others. In a legal complaint filed earlier this month, Harvard said it was committed to combating anti-Semitism and had taken steps to ensure its campus is safe and welcoming to Jewish and Israeli students. It said the administration's actions were a threat to academic freedom. Aaron Racklin Melnick, a senior fellow with the American Immigration Council, a pro-immigration advocacy group, said that action against Harvard students' visa program needlessly punishes thousands of innocent students. None of them have done anything wrong. They're just collateral damage to Trump, he said, on the social media site Blue Sky. Trump took office in January, pledging a wide-ranging immigration crackdown. His administration has tried to revoke student visas and green cards of foreign students who participated in pro-Palestinian protests. All right, that's story number one. A federal judge has blocked Trump's education department shutdown and has ordered reinstatement of the staff that previously has been laid off, according to Chalk Beat. A federal judge on Thursday issued a preliminary injunction blocking President Donald Trump's executive order to shut down the U.S. Department of Education and said the agency must reinstate the employees who were fired as part of mass layoffs. After U.S. Education Secretary Linda McMahon announced the agency's plans in March to slash its workforce by roughly half, she called it a first step in getting rid of the agency. Trump followed days later with his executive order aiming to eliminate the department, a move he has long wanted. But only Congress can actually eliminate the department, and the administration's attempt at getting around that influenced U.S. District Judge Mayung Huang's Thursday's morning. The Trump administration argued that they implemented agency layoffs to improve efficiency and accountability. The Massachusetts judge wrote, but then said, quote, the record abundantly reveals that the administration's true intention is to effectively dismantle the department without an authorizing statute, end quote. Chuang added, quote, a department without enough employees to perform statutorily mandated functions is not a department at all. This court cannot be asked to cover its eyes or to close its eyes and cover its eyes while the department's employees are continuously fired and units are transferred out until the department becomes a shell of itself, close quote. This reminds me of what they do in corporate America. Corporation will buy a particular company. Then the next thing you know, layoffs start, firing start. They like to call it restructuring, reorganizing, downsizing, becoming more efficient. But basically, it's firing people. People lose their jobs, have no jobs at all, and then things start happening in their lives. And the best thing that they can say is, well, good luck. Zhuang added, within hours of Zhuang's ruling, the Trump administration filed an appeal. This ruling is not in the best interest of American students or families. Maddie Biderman, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Communications, wrote in a statement, calls for the injunction came from lawsuits filed by the Somerville and East Hampton school districts in Massachusetts, along with the American Federation of Teachers and other education groups. Teachers don't get paid enough. Teachers are overworked, underpaid. They don't even have adequate supplies. They have to put up with continual violence in the schools. That's private schools and public schools. Look at all the mass shootings that have occurred around the country in schools. They argue that the gutting of the department rendered the agency incapable of performing many of its core functions required by Congress. For example, all of the attorneys from the agency's general counsel office who handle grants for K-12 schools and grants under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, had been fired. The dismantling of the Office for Civil Rights made it difficult to enforce civil rights protections. The department's financial student aid programs, which provided financial assistance to almost 12.9 million students across approximately 6,100 post-secondary educational institutions, were also hampered. Trump's executive order instructed McMahon, the billionaire wife of Linda McMahon of the WWE, who has no experience whatsoever in education. He's ordered her to take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education and return authority over education to the states and local communities to the maximum extent appropriate and permitted by law. At the same time, the order said McMahon should ensure the effective and uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits on which Americans rely. Trump said he would move the agency's student loan portfolio to the Small Business Administration, and the Department of Health and Human Services would replace the Education Department's role in handling special needs. Before the layoffs, the Education Department was the smallest of the 15 cabinet-level departments in terms of staffing, according to the judge. With around 4,100 employees, and the plaintiffs said, the agency was strained meeting its obligations even then. The ruling was not based on the employees' jobs, right? But rather how the agency was able to fulfill its obligations. It's not about whether employees have a right to a job, said Derek Black, a University of South Carolina law professor. It's about whether the department can fulfill its statutory obligations to the states and to students, quote, close quote. The case made by former department employees, educational institutions, unions, and educators, Juan wrote, paints, quote, stark picture of the irreparable harm that will result from financial uncertainty and delay impeded across the vital knowledge on which students and educators rely, and loss of essential services for America's most vulnerable student populations. American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten hurled the judge's ruling, calling it a first step to reverse this war on knowledge and the undermining of broad-based opportunity. This comes from the Washington Post. It's about a shooting that occurred at a Washington, D.C. Jewish museum. and the shooting shows signs of targeted violence. Police are trying to authenticate a manifesto posted by an online account apparently linked to suspect Elias Rodriguez, according to sources. According to the Washington Post, federal authorities on Thursday raided a Chicago home linked to the man accused of shooting two Israeli embassy workers outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, shouting, quote, "Free, free Palestine," end quote, as he was arrested. Investigators are also working to authenticate a manifesto posted online about an hour after the Wednesday night shootings by an X account that appears to belong to the accused gunman. Elias Rodriguez, according to two law enforcement officials briefed on the matter, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the investigation. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said in a post on X on Thursday that authorities are working to confirm whether certain writings are linked to Rodriguez, an apparent reference to the manifesto. The document titled, quote, "Escalate for Gaza, Bring the War Home," close quote, accuses Israel of genocide and says a perpetrator may be a good person at times and yet be a monster all the time. The message concludes, "Free Palestine, Elias Rodriguez." Bugino also said in his post that the suspected gunman was interviewed by investigators early Thursday morning, but did not share more information about what he said. Bongino said earlier that early indicators are that this is an act of targeted violence. The suspect allegedly focused on the event, but not on specific people before coming to the museum, according to a person familiar with the investigation who spoke on the case, as always, of condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. Rodriguez, who is 31 years of age, of Chicago, was charged federally and is expected to appear in U.S. District Court as early as Thursday afternoon. Speaking to reporters at the museum on Thursday morning, U.S. Attorney General Pamboni said Rodriguez is believed to have acted alone, but he declined to comment on the current state of the investigation and whether Rodriguez has cooperated with authorities. She also declined to say whether the Justice Department would pursue a death penalty case, saying only that Rodriguez will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Meanwhile, more details emerged Thursday about the young couple killed as they left an event for young professionals at the museum organized by the American Jewish Committee, a pro-Israel advocacy group that confronts anti-Semitism. Attendees heard from speakers who worked for organizations doing work on humanitarian crisis in the Middle East and North Africa. The victims were identified as Yoran Lazinski and Sarah Lynn Milgram, according to Israel's X account. She was 26 years of age and he was 30 years of age. Lazinski and Milgram were in the prime of their lives and planning to get married, said the Israeli embassy and its spokeswoman, Tal Nayem. "Instead of walking you down the aisle, we are walking you to your graves," Nayem wrote Thursday on X. Lazinski completed a degree in international relations and Asian studies in 2021. The Hebrew University of Jerusalem said Yachil Latir, Israel's ambassador to the United States, said Lazinski had recently brought a ring and planned to propose to Milgram. Lazinski was a research assistant in the Israeli embassy's political department, and Milgram organized missions and visits to Israel, Israeli government officials said on Thursday. A spokesperson for the Israeli embassy in Berlin confirmed that Lazinski was an Israeli citizen. A German official speaking on the condition of anonymity to follow protocol confirmed that the male victim had a German passport. Rodriguez was detained inside the museum after Lazinski and Milgram were shot outside, police said. Both victims were pronounced dead at the scene. By mid-morning Thursday, FBI authorities searched an apartment on a leafy, quiet block in the East Albany Park neighborhood of Chicago's West Side that was believed to be linked to Rodriguez. The middle-class neighborhood is home to a diverse mix of residents, particularly Mexican and Middle Eastern families. At a news conference, D.C. Police Chief Pamela A. Smith said the shooter approached four people and opened fire using a handgun. Before the shooting, the suspect was observed pacing back and forth outside the museum, she said. Stephen J. Jensen, the assistant director in charge of the FBI's Washington field office, said at the news conference that the shooting will be investigated as a possible hate crime, and Israeli officials on Thursday referred to the killings as a terrorist attack motivated by anti Semitism and anti Israeli sentiments. Early Thursday, police tape still closed off the area around the museum, shutting off 3rd and F Streets northwest for a block in every direction. The museum is a part of downtown D.C. that includes several large federal office buildings. Rush hour traffic had come to a Noble and eerie standstill as the case was routed around the scene. So this is an ongoing investigation, and I will keep you updated. According to the Los Angeles Times, a fatal plane crash in San Diego neighborhood leaves a gigantic debris field, flames, and fuel spill. And this is according once again to the Los Angeles Times. At least 3 people have died on a plane that crashed into San Diego neighborhood, leaving gigantic debris field. A private jet flying in dense fog crashed into a San Diego neighborhood early Thursday morning, killing at least 3 and sparking intense flames that scorched several homes, mangled dozens of vehicles, and forced almost 100 people to evacuate. The only people known to have died in the crash were aboard the aircraft, which appeared to have struck down power lines before crashing into a home, according to federal officials. The Federal Aviation Administration confirmed Thursday afternoon that 6 people were on board the plane. At an earlier news conference, San Diego Fire Rescue Department Assistant Chief Dan Eddy said he did not believe any occupants of the aircraft survived. A spokesperson for a Sound Talent Group, a San Diego County-based music agency, confirmed to the Times that the company lost their employees in the crash, including Dave Shapiro, the group's co-founder. The other employees were not named. Quote, "We are devastated by the loss of our co-founder, colleagues, and friends," read a company statement. "Our hearts go out to their families and to everyone impacted by today's tragedy. Thank you so much for respecting their privacy at this time." The Cessna 550 jet, which can accommodate up to 10 people, was registered to Deviator LLC, a company based in Homer, Alaska. According to FAA records, the company's registered agent Shapiro is a certified flight instructor and airline transport pilot. The business jet crashed into a military housing community in the Murphy Canyon area just around 4 a.m. Thursday. According to Eddy, officials have yet to say exactly how many aircraft occupants perished, but did confirm that no residents were killed in the crash. Crews arrived on scene to find multiple homes and cars on fire. Eddy said at a news conference firefighters were able to quell the flames, but at least 10 homes were severely damaged, and a block of vehicles were left completely mangled, at least a dozen, according to footage from the scene. So these are some of the headlines that are happening around the country, and this is real. This is not something that's pretentious or made up. According to Reuters, Trump's image of dead white farmers came from Reuters footage in Congo, not South Africa. In a meeting with South Africa's president, Trump showed an article with a picture of body bags. Trump said bodies were those of white South Africans killed in the country. The picture was a screenshot of a Reuters video taken in the Democratic Republic of Congo in February. U.S. President Donald Trump showed a screenshot of Reuters videos taken in the Democratic Republic of Congo as part of what he falsely presented on Wednesday as evidence of mass killings of white South Africans. Quote, "These are all white farmers that are being buried," said Trump, holding up a printout of an article accompanied by the picture during a continuous Oval Office meeting with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. In fact, the video published by Reuters on February 3rd and subsequently verified by the news agency's fast-track team showed humanitarian workers lifting body bags in the Congolese city of Goma, The image was pulled from Reuters footage shot following deadly battles with Rwanda backed M22 rebels. The blog post showed to Ramaphosa by Trump during the White House meeting was publicized by American Thinker, a conservative online magazine about conflict and racial tensions in South Africa and Congo. The post did not caption the image but identified it as a quote, YouTube screen grab, close quote, with a link to a video news report about Congo on YouTube, which credited Reuters. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. Andrea Wildbug, managing editor at American Thinker, and the author of the post in question, wrote in reply to a Reuters a query that Trump had misidentified the image. Well, I want to insert this here. Some of you may agree, and some of you may disagree, and that's all good. During the apartheid era, when millions of Black Africans were being slaughtered, raped, molested, butchered, burned, imprisoned, not a cry was uttered for them, not a tear was shed for them. When they were imprisoned and their land was confiscated, nobody cared. When protests erupted around the world and around the country in support of Nelson Mandela, who was imprisoned for justly standing up for his own nationalized rights in South Africa as a South African taught trained lawyer. Mohandas K. Gandhi was a trained lawyer as well. These were not nincompoops out there just singing and doing things on the film. Injustice anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, should be addressed, irregardless of a person's status, irregardless of their wealth, irregardless of their color, their lineage, their heritage, or their privilege. Injustice against any people should be addressed. All life is precious in God's eyes, not just the lives of a certain select group. All right, I'm going to move on to the next story here. There's so much going on. This one is coming from out of Florida, from NPR, National Public Radio. In Florida, an immigrant pastor's detention sends a community reeling. In one weekend in May, more than 1,000 immigrants were arrested in Florida. The massive crackdown has Trump supporters asking why their neighbors were detained and must be deported. If you lived out by the Little Manatee River in the swampland south of Tampa, Florida, you probably know the name, Murillo Ambrosico. He's an evangelical pastor at a local church. He's lived here for 20 years. He also owns a landscaping business, tending the lawns and yards in the neighboring cities of Fort Myers. And a few weeks ago, he was detained in President Trump's massive immigration crackdown, which Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has promised to fully partner with. In fact, he's pledged to make the state the lead on the government's deportation campaign. The Trump administration says the Florida deportations were a preview of what is to come across the U.S. large-scale operation in close partnership with local law enforcement. News about Pastor Murillo's detention spread fast. Quote, "We were helping a neighbor and he said, 'Did you hear?' Says Ambrosilo's next door neighbor, Greg Johns. Murillo got deported." John says he was beside himself. His eyes water as he recalls when Hurricane Milton hit last year. Ambrosico checked in on him immediately. "Do you need propane?" he asked. "Do you need water? What do you need?" That's the type of neighbor he is. This man is part of the neighborhood, like many in this small rural community. Johns voted for President Trump last November. In fact, he did so at Ambrosilo's church, which doubles as a polling station. I did, he hesitates, because I was not happy with the direction the country was going in. He says he was hoping migrants in the country without papers and with criminal records would be targeted. But he says he never expected a pillar of the community like Murillo Ambrosio would be taken away. You're going to take, a community leader, a pastor, a hardworking man. What did you need a number that day? That day was April 18th. Ambrosio had gone in for one of his mandatory check-ins with immigration agents. He has a form of legal protection called a stay of removal. That means although he entered the U.S. unlawfully, he's allowed to remain as long as he meets with immigration officials at least once a year. They ask him if he's still employed and check that he hasn't committed any crimes. Every year for the last 10 years or so, Ambrosio had attended 3 interviews and had been approved. But on April 18th, he was detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. NPR reached out to ICE to ask why Ambrosio was detained this time around. In an email, a spokesperson responded he was in the U.S. illegally, but did not answer questions or clarify why now. So far, the increase in arrests has been notable. In one weekend alone, this month, ICE says over 1,100 immigrants were detained throughout Florida, touted as the largest joint immigration cooperation in Florida history. 63% of those detained that weekend had existing criminal convictions or arrests. There is, however, another way to read the number. 415 people were arrested that weekend who had no existing criminals, convictions, or arrests. For the Ambry-Seco family, the pastor's detention has been a catastrophic. For my kids, it's like the world ended. Ambrose-Seco's wife, Marlena, says. They have 5 children, all U.S. citizens, ages 12 to 19. Marlena herself has been consumed by grief as she fries an egg for breakfast, she says. She dreams about her husband almost every night. Whew, it's a heartbreaking story. All right. Why Baptists in North Carolina agreed to resettle Afrikaners as refugees, according to NPR. Despite controversy over Afrikaners' refugee status, a Baptist ministry says they have a religious duty to help settle them in the U.S. Coming out of Raleigh, North Carolina, the 12 by 30-foot storage unit in a Raleigh, North Carolina suburb is crammed full of chairs, tables, mattresses, lamps, pots, and pans. Most of its contents will soon be hauled off to 2 apartments that welcome House Raleigh. Is furnishing for 3 newly arrived refugees. It's the job of the ministry, which is a project of the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship of North Carolina, which has handled countless times on behalf of newly arrived refugees from such places as Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Syria, and Venezuela. But these 2 apartments are going to 3 Afrikaners, whose status as refugees is, according to many faith-based groups and others, highly controversial. Last week, Mark Wyatt, director of Welcome House Raleigh, received a call from the North Carolina field office of the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigration asking if he could help furnish the apartment for the refugees. Among the 59 Afrikaners who arrived in the U.S. last week from South Africa. It was a common request for the ministry that partners with refugee resettlement agencies to provide temporary housing and furniture for people in need. And at the same time, the request was extremely challenging. After thinking about it, consulting with the Welcome House Network director, and asking for feedback from ministry volunteers, Wyatt said yes. Our position is that however morally and ethnically charged it is, our mandate is to help welcome and love people, said Wyatt, a retired Cooperative Baptist Fellowship missionary who now works for CBF, North Carolina. Our holy book says, God loves people. We don't get to discriminate. I wonder if there were Black South Africans who came over here. Would this same Baptist organization be so grateful in welcoming them, helping them, resettling them? The answer is no. These evangelicals are always talking about love and grace and mercy after they do all their dirt and support every wrong cause under the sun. And they think people have faded memories. But we don't have faded memories. White said he recognizes that Afrikaners are part of a white ethnic minority that created and led South Africa's brutal segregationist policies known as apartheid for nearly 50 years. That policy, which included denying the country's black majority rights to voting, housing, education, and land, ended in 1994 when the country elected Nelson Mandela his first free presidential election. White has been running the Welcome House Raleigh Ministry for 10 years, providing temporary housing and a furniture bank for refugees and now asylum seekers, he says. They'll extend the same welcome now to Afrikaners. Let me go back to this statement. So what if apartheid ended in 1994? The damage has been done. People's lives were destroyed. People were killed, butchered, murdered, raped. Their land was confiscated. No talk of reparation was given for the black Africans. No talk of reaching out and helping them. Nelson Mandela was elected because we're not going to whitewash over history. Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years, him and the entire African National Congress on Robben Island. And it was only because civil war was breaking out all across South Africa that the South African segregated government decided to reach out to Mandela by means of bringing peace to the region. And Mandela was so forgiving and so kind, he even allowed the former president to serve in his cabinet. I don't read anywhere where this same Baptist organization welcomed any black Africans down into the Carolinas where slavery was very much prevalent. And it has been disputed and repudiated that these people were not being discriminated against. Just say they wanted to leave and leave it at that. Don't try to act like black people are discriminating against them and did anything to harm them. They belong to an all-white town in South Africa. I know y'all don't like to hear this because you don't want to deal with the issue of slavery and discrimination, segregation, and racism in America. The Holocaust is an issue that's constantly talked about, never to be forgotten. The atrocities of Hitler and everything they did was horrible. Just like we're never going to forget about the Holocaust. And I've visited several Holocaust museums. We're never going to forget about slavery and the things that have happened in this country. I'm not saying that America's damned and doomed and going to hell and that every white person is bad. History is history. Just like they're proud of the Confederate flag. I don't care if they keep the Confederate flag. You said that's a part of their history? Okay, that's a part of your history. Slavery is a part of our history. Now they're welcome to relocate them and to help them, but do it for all people, not for a select group of white people. And last week, the Episcopal Church chose to end its refugee resettlement partnership with the U.S. government rather than resettle Afrikaners. Presiding Bishop Sean Rose said his church's commitment to racial justice and reconciliation and its long relationship with the late Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu made it possible for the church to work with the government on resettling Afrikaners. Quote, the idea that we would somehow resettle Afrikaners at this point over other refugees who have been vetted and waiting in camps for months or even years is unfathomable to us. Close quote. The Most Reverend Sean Rowe, presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, told NPR. This is real. I don't think I'm going to do one last story because I've been here. Okay, let's see what Elon Musk is up to now. It's always good to check on people, find out what's happening. Let me see how. I'll come back to these articles. articles. All right, y'all. I'm going to leave it here. It's been like 40 minutes. Thank you all for the comment section. Um, all right. Thank you all for chiming in tonight. Thank you for making Tyrone Bowman Live a part of your journey here. So if you haven't subscribed, would you kindly think about subscribing to Tyrone Bowman Live? And if there's some news stories, and I say this all the time because I really want to cover a lot. If there are news stories that I've missed that are important to you, and you want me to talk about them, hit me up in the comment section. And I'll take the time to find them, to research them, and bring them before the camera. Till next time, never surrender, never quit.